and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. We'll go to our phones, 888-589-8840. Got a story up on Drudge talking about what I just mentioned. This is the St. Louis County Police Chief, Tim Fitch. And he's saying the same thing that I've been saying since Friday. I've just got beaten about the head and shoulders for this. But Bill Bennett has come out and said the same thing. John Lott, who knows more about guns and gun violence than anybody, like in history, saying the same thing. And now you have law enforcement officials saying the same thing. St. Louis County Police Chief Tim Fitch says it is time to talk about arming civilian school personnel following Friday's massacre in Newtown, Connecticut, and he compared it to arming pilots after 9/11. He says, quote, "I see it no differently. Pilots have been armed now for many years. We've not had another hijacking. And the issue is, for the bad guy, he doesn't know which airplane he's getting on if the pilot is armed or not." I sent a picture out on Saturday, and those of you that are on my Twitter feed would have gotten this. Brian J. Fisher is my handle. If you're not on it, go to Twitter, set up an account, and start following me, Brian J. Fisher. You'll get updates as I see them. Didn't have much of an opportunity to do any tweeting this morning. I just kind of wrapped up dealing with all the radioactive ash from what I said on Friday, which is now being echoed by St. Louis County Police Chief Tim Fitch. Governor Huckabee said the same thing. James Dobson, I understand, said the same thing about the absence of prayer and how we have removed God from our public institutions for 50 years, and we have been sowing to the flesh for 50 years, and now we are reaping a bitter fruit of corruption. Bill Bennett, former Secretary of Education, said the same thing. We need to think about allowing school faculty to carry concealed. I could not possibly agree anymore. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Todd in Chillicothe, Ohio. Todd, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Brian. I love your show. Listen to it every day.
Thank you, sir.
And I agree with everything. I listened to your comments over the weekend and Huckabee's and others, and I totally agree with it. The only thing I could think the reason people are so upset about it is because its babies are involved, and everything is so raw right now, and that, with God's grace and mercy, the parents will be able to get through this. As a parent of 3 kids, I wouldn't know what I would do if my babies were involved with something like that.
Yeah.
So we just have to endure. You said what you said is the truth, but maybe it's just because it's so raw of an issue. It's not a grown-up. It's a baby that just, is starting life out that is taken away for senseless issues.
Yeah.
And I'm a concealed carry owner, and I agree with it. We need to start using people, law-abiding people, to start protecting our kids and other people. There's no sense, people volunteer to do this thing. Why not use them and implement issues to help fight these kinds of things?
Yeah. All right, Todd, listen, I appreciate the call very much. Thank you. Thank you for that, and I agree with what you are saying. And, it's interesting to talk about the number of instances where a gun stops a potentially mass murder from occurring. I've got a story here from San Antonio, I believe, where 2 people are hospitalized after a gunman chased terrified restaurant patrons into the lobby of a movie theater during a showing of The Hobbit. The incident started in the China Garden restaurant on Southeast Military Drive at 9 p.m. Sunday when an employee of the restaurant walked in looking for a woman. So apparently it was some kind of a breakup or a Romeo and Juliet situation gone bad. When the woman, who officials say is also a restaurant employee, wasn't there, the man pulled a gun and attempted to open fire in the restaurant, but his weapon jammed. It started at the restaurant and then went into the parking lot and then into the movie theater. Investigators said some of the terrified restaurant patrons poured into the movie theater and the gunman followed. So the guy starts shooting people in the restaurant. The gun jams. Everybody spills out of the restaurant heading for the nearest place of safety, which is the movie theater. The gunman follows them right in there. And the gunman got his gun working by this time and shot one guy in the chest. Now, it happened to be there was an off-duty sheriff's deputy who was working security at the theater, and she shot this guy, and everybody else was spared. He's disabled by the gun. I mean, he was planning to do the Aurora thing, same thing that happened at that theater in Aurora, and he got stopped. What? He got stopped by a handgun on the premises. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Robert in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Robert, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. This is Robert Blackburn. A mad black man. I'm mad. Jesus said, be angry and sin not. It's back in Genesis. It said, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thought, evil imagination and thought in his heart was evil continually. The thing is, you got the president, in which I don't consider him no president, and these congressmen and these senators, all of them is just going off to the wash. All I can just say, I hate to say it in my heart, but because of this evilness that's going on, it's the end times and there's going to be more evil. But all I know, them children is in the arms of Jesus. God bless you. I hear what you say on the radio.
All right. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. And obviously, we want to continue to pray for these families. I mean, we talked about this Friday at length. We just cannot imagine the pain and the grief. And it's my pain and my grief for them and my outrage that we have been so foolish. You know, it's like God is saying to us, look, you got to work with me on this. You got to work with me on this. I've given you a brain. I've given you the Second Amendment to your Constitution. I have given you weapons. Now, why don't you use them to protect these helpless little children that I have placed in your custody? I've entrusted them to you. You have a responsibility to look after them. I'm glad to help you with that, to co-labor with you, to cooperate with you in that. But if I tell you to not only pray, but set a guard, and you not only don't pray, but you don't set a guard, you leave me nothing to work with, and those children are now at the mercy of evil and the evil one because you have not done what the Bible instructs you to do, to both pray, invite God into your environment, and set a guard. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to David, Columbus, Ohio. David, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Well, I've got a book, 4 Centuries of American Education, by David Barton. And the Old Deluders Satan Act, that law declared being the chief project of the Old Deluders Satan to keep men from the knowledge of the Scripture as in former times. In 1642, they started teaching the Bible in our public schools, or maybe even before that. And it was, and I'm old enough to remember when they read the Bible in the school, and they opened the school day up with prayer. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have mass killings back then, and gun control isn't going to stop mass killings. Look at the fertilizer bomber out there in Oklahoma. Look at what the airplanes did to the Twin Towers, and there's many other ways to do mass killings.
Yeah, and we talked, David, earlier in the program about the fact that the worst school massacre in history didn't involve guns at all. It involved bombs.
Yeah. So, I mean, gun control isn't going to stop anything. It's the lack of Jesus. It's satanic powers, at work. And we kill over 1 million babies through abortion every year. And no one's getting upset over those babies. Mm-hmm. Those parents that kill the babies are going to have a lifetime of grief. And, I think, AFR needs to bring Matt Freedom back for 2 or 3 hours a day. And I'm not saying anything against any of their shows, but, he was one pastor that went out actually to the abortion clinics, and that's a rare thing here in America.
Yeah. All right, Dave, listen, I appreciate the call, and you're right. Matt Friedman practiced what he preached. He did not just take a stand against the slaughter of the innocents. He went out and made his presence known at these abortion facilities. David's got a good question. Where's the outrage? If we're concerned about the slaughter of the innocents, where's the outrage over the 55 million babies that have been slaughtered since Roe v. Wade? Let's go to Willie in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Willie, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Brian, this time?
Good, Willie. How are you?
Pretty good. Right quick, I see it's coming up on the hour. I believe in the power of prayer, and I believe also that it starts at home. What I taught my kids is to pray wherever you are. The Lord should go into your closet, your praying closet. I don't believe, God, they took the prayer out of school, in my view. I believe wherever my child goes, he knows or she knows, a daughter and a son knows to pray. They can pray sitting at the desk. They can pray sitting on the stool. They can pray on the playground. They did not take prayer out of school for those who know better.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting, Willie, that one of the elements of this story that's not gotten a lot of attention is that the teacher that put these kids in a closet, she died. She got shot to death, shielding her students with her own body. She locked them in the closet. The gunman went and banged on the door of the closet and yelled at these kids that were inside. There were 15 of them in there, let me in, let me in. They did not do it. And one of the things they were doing in that closet is they were praying. That group of kindergarten kids locked in that closet in the dark, they were praying the whole time, and they were spared.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. So that's what I mean. He did not, man can do anything he wants to, but those who know, they did not take prayer out of school, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you teach your child that, as I was taught, but those who don't know him and don't know his word don't know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate your call. Thank you for that. Now I want to finish the hour by reading this poem written by Darrell Scott. He's the father of Rachel Scott. She was a victim of the Columbine Massacre in 1999. And here's what he had to say. Same thing we're saying today. Your laws ignore our deepest needs. Your words are empty air. You've stripped away our heritage. You've outlawed simple prayer. Now gunshots fill our classrooms and precious children die. You seek for answers everywhere and ask the question, why? You regulate restrictive laws through legislative creed, and yet you fail to understand that God is what we need. Now that's Darrell Scott. He was the father of Rachel Scott. She was one of the dozen or so students cut down in cold blood in Columbine 1999. And I walked with you Friday through this telescoping of these mass school shootings. Before 1999, the last one had been 1966, 33 years. Then we have Columbine. It's just 6 years later for the next one, and then only 1 year to the next one. So he's getting telescoped and coming closer and closer together in time. And we've ignored the words of Darrell Scott, who had the moral authority to speak. God is what we need. Time to get that message back in our public schools. Back after the news.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.
'Twas the week before